The warning. The vast chambers of the Galactic Council were filled with the murmurs of intergalactic representatives, all debating the future of their territories. From across the stars, the leaders had gathered to discuss the growing concerns surrounding the human race. Some spoke of Earth's rapid technological advancements, while others dismissed the humans as primitive, unworthy of any serious attention. But standing alone at the front of the room, his battle-scarred uniform still carrying the weight of countless wars, was the one who had seen what others had not. Garrus, a veteran of the great alien wars, had faced the humans on multiple occasions, and his experiences had left him with a warning no one was willing to hear. His sharp, piercing eyes scanned the room, observing the skeptical expressions on the faces of the council members. He knew that this would be a fight he would lose before it even began. Why are we wasting time on these primitives? One of the council leaders scoffed, his tentacles twitching in disbelief. They're nothing more than a nuisance. Garrus stood tall, his voice unwavering as he addressed the assembly. You have no idea what you're dealing with, he said, his voice deep and filled with authority. You all think the humans are weak. But that's where you're wrong. They are unpredictable, relentless, and above all, they are survivors. A low murmur rippled through the room, the other leaders exchanging uncertain glances. Garrus continued, his voice growing more intense. I've seen what they can do. I've fought them in the trenches. They are not like any enemy we've ever faced. The moment you think you've won, they come back stronger. They don't fight to conquer. They fight to survive. One of the younger council members, an alien with silvery skin and bright red eyes, interrupted. What are you suggesting, Garrus? That we should fear them. They are nothing but a primitive species. We've wiped out entire civilizations far more advanced than theirs. Garrus clenched his fists, the scars on his arms tightening. It's not about their technology. It's about their will to fight. We underestimated them before, and that was our mistake. They will not bow. They will never surrender. There was a tense silence in the room as Garrus's words echoed through the chamber. The leaders were not used to being questioned. They had seen countless species rise and fall before them. Surely, humans could be no different. But Garrus knew better. He had fought the humans on their homeworld, seen their unyielding determination as they stood against insurmountable odds. He had watched as they outsmarted, outlasted, and outwitted every tactic his forces had thrown at them. They were not just warriors. They were survivors, and that made them dangerous. They're unpredictable. Garrus continued, his voice low and filled with the weight of experience. You think you can conquer them with force, but their strength lies in their adaptability. They learn faster than you can strike. They're relentless, and they fight for something we cannot understand, something that makes them stronger than any force we can throw at them. A chorus of laughter erupted from some of the council members. Enough, Garrus, another leader said dismissively. This is nothing but paranoia. We've dealt with rebellious species before. They crumble under the weight of our power. The humans are no different. But Garrus's gaze never wavered. You'll see, he said, his voice now carrying a tone of finality. When the time comes and the humans turn on us, you will regret not listening. You will regret underestimating them. As Garrus turned to leave, the chamber fell into a tense silence. His warning hung in the air like a storm cloud, but no one seemed willing to heed it. The council members returned to their discussions, brushing off Garrus's words as the rantings of an old soldier. But deep down, in the pit of their stomachs, a small seed of doubt began to take root. Could the veteran have been right? They dismissed it as nothing more than a passing concern, but Garrus knew better. The warning had been given, and it would be the last thing they would ever hear. As the doors to the council chamber slid shut behind him, Garrus stood outside, staring out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the humans were waiting, growing stronger, learning faster. He had done his part. The rest was up to them. But deep inside, he couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come. First contact. The peaceful negotiation between the Galactic Council and the human representatives had been carefully arranged. The humans had sent their brightest diplomats to this neutral space station, an old, elegant meeting hall built by a coalition of species long ago. The towering glass windows overlooked the stars, their peaceful glow a stark contrast to the rising tensions in the room. The alien leaders were prepared for diplomacy, or so they thought. Garrus watched the events unfold from the shadows, his sharp eyes studying every movement of the human delegates. The humans appeared calm, composed even, but there was something about their demeanor that didn't sit right with him. He could see it in their eyes, an intensity, a fire. And that was something no alien species had ever truly understood. "Let's begin," the Alien Council President, Zethar, announced with a grand gesture. "Welcome, human representatives. We are pleased to open discussions on the future of our relations." The humans sat at the table. One of them, a young woman with dark brown hair and striking green eyes, took the lead. Her posture was confident, yet Garrus could sense an underlying tension in her every word. The humans weren't here just to talk. They had something to prove, and Garrus knew that could only mean trouble. "We are grateful for the opportunity to engage with the Galactic Council," the human ambassador, Sarah, said. "We wish to create a peaceful future, one where we all thrive. But we must be honest, we are wary of what's to come." Garrus' eyes narrowed. Sarah's words were polite, but her tone was edged with caution, perhaps even a hint of defiance. She was too calm for someone in the presence of so many powerful beings. And then it happened. In an instant, everything shifted. Without warning, the lights above them flickered. There was a low rumble that vibrated through the station. The sound of distant alarms echoed from down the hall. Sarah didn't flinch. She knew exactly what was happening. "Do you really think we'd come here unprepared?" she asked, her voice suddenly steady and cold. "You've underestimated us," just as Garrus said. Before anyone could respond, a series of explosions rocked the station. Alien soldiers, dressed in sleek armor and armed to the teeth, rushed in from hidden doors, their weapons aimed directly at the human delegates. Panic swept through the room. The alien leaders stood frozen, their minds racing. What had they missed? How had the humans known this was coming? Garrus, standing at the back, cursed under his breath. He'd feared this moment, and now it had arrived. The humans weren't just diplomats. They had come for something far more than a peaceful agreement. Sarah's voice rang out across the chaos. "You wanted to make peace. Fine. But first, you need to understand something. Humans don't bend to your will. We fight for what's ours." The doors to the meeting hall slammed shut. Soldiers swarmed the edges of the room, but to their surprise, the humans didn't fight back with weapons. They fought with something far more dangerous: strategy. A group of humans, wearing what appeared to be civilian attire, entered the fray, moving swiftly and precisely. In seconds, they had taken control of the station's control room, locking out the alien forces and cutting off their communication lines. The entire station's power grid flickered, and within moments, it went dark. The humans had planned for this. Garrus watched as the alien soldiers struggled to regain control. They were powerful, yes, but they were disoriented, confused. And then it hit him. Human soldiers didn't follow the typical rules of war. They didn't march in, guns blazing. They waited. They planned. They outwitted. Sarah, now in control of the station's command, spoke again, her voice calm but firm. "Consider this your first warning. We will not be forced into submission." The Alien Council members looked at each other, their eyes wide with disbelief. The humans had not just attacked. They had taken control. They had anticipated everything. And they had the upper hand. The veteran's warning was starting to sink in, but it was too late. As Garrus stood in the shadows, a deep sense of dread filled him. The humans were no longer a species to be trifled with. They had shown their strength, and they weren't going to back down. The council leaders realized, too late, that they had made a grave mistake by underestimating humanity. The real war was just beginning. The counterattack. The Galactic Council members sat in stunned silence, their eyes wide with disbelief as the alien soldiers struggled to regain control of the space station. The humans, once thought to be primitive and easily subdued, had flipped the entire situation in their favor. A swift, calculated attack had caught the alien forces off guard, and now the entire station was in the hands of the humans. On the bridge of an alien warship, the commanders were in a state of frantic panic. The communications lines had gone silent. Their fleet, once poised to retaliate, was now in disarray. They had underestimated the humans' ability to act quickly and decisively. But what troubled them most was the realization that the humans weren't just surviving. They were thriving in chaos. "They've taken the control room," a young alien officer stammered. "They're jamming our communications. The station is completely locked down." Zethar, the council president, stood stiffly in the middle of the war room, his tentacles twitching in agitation. "This should not have happened," he muttered, his voice barely audible. "How did they?" His words trailed off, as though he couldn't comprehend the scale of the mistake they'd made. "They used our own technology against us." Garrus spoke up from the back of the room, his tone grim. "I warned you this would happen. You thought you could intimidate them. Now, they're the ones controlling the situation." A hushed silence fell over the room, but the alien leaders knew Garrus was right. They had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt. They had underestimated how quickly the humans could turn the tables in their favor. Garrus turned toward the starboard window, staring into the endless void of space. "They don't think like us. They're not bound by the same rules of engagement. They'll hit us where it hurts the most, and they won't stop until they've won." Zethar's voice snapped out, a tinge of desperation creeping into his tone. "We need to retake the station immediately. Deploy every available ship. We cannot allow this to go unpunished." But Garrus wasn't so sure. "It won't be that simple," he warned. "The humans have already outmaneuvered us once. They'll do it again. You can't just throw more ships at them. They'll exploit every weakness you give them." The council president's frustration boiled over. "Then what do you suggest, Garrus? Do we let them win?" "No," Garrus said slowly, his eyes hard. "But we need to understand what we're really up against. These humans, they don't fear death. They will keep fighting until there's nothing left to fight for. If you want to defeat them, you need to change the way you think." Meanwhile, on the station, Sarah, the human ambassador, stood in the central control room, overseeing the operation. The lights flickered back to life as the system slowly came back online. Her calm demeanor belied the urgency of the situation. She wasn't just leading a negotiation now, she was commanding a war. The alien forces had already begun to regroup. Ships were being deployed, and troops were rallying to retake the station. But Sarah had anticipated every move. The humans had set up multiple defenses, all strategically placed to ensure that if the aliens made a move, they would be met with heavy resistance. "We need to make sure they don't get the upper hand again," Sarah said to her team, her voice sharp. "Activate the defense protocols. Lock down all critical areas. If they want this station back, they'll have to fight for every inch." Her team worked quickly, their fingers flying over control panels as they prepared for the incoming alien assault. Sarah's mind was calculating the next few moves, her mind sharp and focused. The humans weren't just defending their position. They were drawing the alien forces into a trap. The alien ships were already on their way, but the humans had something the aliens didn't: knowledge of their tactics and weaknesses. Sarah had been briefed on the station's defenses and had spent hours studying the alien fleet's movements. She knew exactly how they would attack, and she was ready for them. As the first wave of alien ships arrived, the station's automated defense systems activated, launching a barrage of missiles and energy blasts that forced the enemy to retreat. The aliens had come in too fast, too recklessly, and they had paid the price. Garrus watched from the warship's command center as the aliens struggled to regroup. "This isn't a victory," he muttered to himself, his eyes narrowing as he observed the battlefield. "This is a warning. The humans have proven they can outsmart us. Now they've turned the tables. And we're the ones on the defensive." Sarah's voice came through the communication channels as she addressed the alien fleet. "Consider this your first lesson. We won't just roll over. We'll fight to the very end, and when we do, you'll remember why you shouldn't have underestimated us." The alien commanders stood silent, their faces hardening. They could no longer deny the truth. They had miscalculated. The humans weren't just a nuisance. They were a force to be reckoned with. As the alien fleet withdrew for the moment, Garrus couldn't help but feel a surge of dread. The humans had won this round, but he knew the real battle was far from over. He had warned them, but the aliens hadn't listened. Now, they were facing the consequences of their arrogance. And it was only going to get worse. Human resolve. The alien commanders had retreated to their ships, their minds racing. The humans had just delivered a crushing blow, one that no one had expected. The space station was now under their control, and they had already shown that they would fight fiercely for it. The question on everyone's mind now was, how far would humanity go to protect what was theirs? Back on Earth, the response was swift. While the alien forces licked their wounds and regrouped, human forces around the galaxy were already preparing for the next phase. The battle was not over, not by a long shot, but the humans weren't retreating. They were only getting stronger. At a hidden military base deep within the Earth's core, a meeting of high-ranking human generals took place. Their faces were grim, but their eyes held a fire that was unmistakable. They had underestimated the aliens before, but now they understood the stakes. The aliens weren't going to give up easily, but neither were the humans. "We've already proven we can fight back," General Harris, a battle-hardened officer, said, his voice cutting through the tension. "But this isn't just about surviving anymore. This is about showing them that we can win. We have to make them realize that no matter how many times they hit us, we'll come back." Around the table, other generals nodded, their expressions steely. The time for diplomacy had passed. The time for showing mercy was over. The aliens had attacked first, and now the humans were ready to do whatever it took to defend themselves. "We've already sent a message," General Harris continued. "The alien leaders know we're not afraid. But we need to take the fight to them now. We need to show them that they can't just knock us down and walk away." On the alien side, the leaders were in complete disarray. Every step they took seemed to lead them deeper into uncertainty. They had thought the humans would back down, that they would be content with simply surviving. But now, the humans were doing more than just surviving. They were fighting, adapting, and evolving faster than the aliens had anticipated. They were pushing back against the alien assault, not just with weapons, but with an unyielding determination that seemed impossible to break. They'd surprised us at every turn. Zethar, the council president, muttered, his tentacles twisting in frustration. "We underestimated their ability to adapt, and now we're paying the price." Garrus, standing quietly at the side of the room, his arms folded across his chest, nodded. "I told you this would happen. Humans fight with everything they have, not just with their weapons. It's their resolve that makes them dangerous." Zethar turned to Garrus, his eyes narrowing. "Enough of your warnings, Garrus. We need solutions. What do you propose we do?" Garrus took a deep breath, his eyes hard. "The only way to stop them is to break their resolve. We have to hit them where it hurts the most, destroy their ability to fight back. But you can't do it by just throwing ships at them. They're more than soldiers. They're a force of will." Zethar hesitated. He didn't want to admit it, but Garrus was right. They had already lost several battles to the humans, and each time it became harder to justify the strategy of overwhelming force. The humans didn't just fight for territory. They fought for something far deeper: their survival, their freedom, and their future. Meanwhile, on the human side, Sarah, the human ambassador who had orchestrated the initial attack, was already on the move again. After taking control of the station, she knew that the alien forces would be back. They would come with more ships, more soldiers, and more firepower. But it wouldn't matter. The humans had proven that they could take anything the aliens threw at them. They had something the aliens didn't: unshakable resolve. In the middle of a strategy meeting in the control room, Sarah addressed her team. "We've shown them our strength, but now it's time to prove something else. We don't fight for land or wealth. We fight because we believe in something bigger. And if the aliens think they can destroy us, they're mistaken." She turned to the maps on the screen, eyes narrowing as she plotted the next move. "We'll force them to play by our rules. We'll make them regret thinking they could destroy us." Sarah's confidence was contagious. The humans, though wary from the initial assault, were more united than ever. They knew they had a long road ahead of them, but they also knew they couldn't stop. Not now. Not when they were this close to proving themselves as a force to be reckoned with. As the human forces prepared for their next move, Garrus stood on the edge of the alien warship, watching the stars stretch into infinity. Deep down, he knew that the humans weren't just fighting to win. They were fighting for something that transcended the battle itself. They were fighting for their place in the galaxy. And in that fight, they had something no alien species could ever take away from them: their unbreakable resolve. The tension was building. The aliens could no longer ignore the fact that the humans had not only survived, they had thrived. The question now wasn't whether the humans could win, but what it would cost the aliens to try to stop them. The stakes had been raised, and now there was no going back. The battle of minds. The galaxy was on the edge of a precipice. Both sides had tested each other's strengths and weaknesses, but it was clear now that this conflict would be decided not just by force, but by intelligence. The human forces had already shown their resilience, their unyielding determination to survive, and their ability to adapt in ways the aliens never thought possible. The aliens, for their part, had relied on their superior technology and overwhelming numbers, but their most important advantage, arrogance, had now become their greatest weakness. On the alien flagship, Zethar paced the war room, his tentacles twisting in frustration. His forces had suffered heavy losses. The humans had outmaneuvered them time and time again, using tactics the aliens had never seen before. The humans were not just fighting to win. They were fighting to prove a point. And that was something the aliens had failed to understand. "We cannot continue fighting like this," Zethar said, slamming a fist against the table. "We're losing more ships by the day. Every battle ends the same way, with the humans pulling some unexpected trick, some cunning move. They're playing a different game, and we're losing." Garrus, who had been silent up until now, stepped forward. His voice was calm but carried the weight of experience. "That's the problem. You've been fighting them as if they're just another enemy to crush. But the humans don't think like that. They don't fight the way we do. They don't rely on the same rules of war. They rely on something else, their ability to outthink you." Zethar's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" "I mean that the humans don't just rely on strength or numbers," Garrus explained. "They use their minds. They study their enemies, anticipate every move, and then turn it against you. The only way to defeat them is to think as they do." On the other side, Sarah and her team were preparing for the next phase of the war. After the success on the space station, they knew that the next battle would be a critical one. The aliens would come at them harder than ever, throwing everything they had left at Earth's defenses. But Sarah was not concerned about firepower. She wasn't afraid of the alien ships, the weapons, or the soldiers. What worried her most was what the aliens would do next, and how the humans could turn the tables again. She sat at the command table, her eyes scanning the holographic map of the battlefield. "We need to outthink them," she said, her voice low but confident. "They rely too much on their firepower. If we can make them think we're weaker than we are, we can strike when they least expect it." Her team nodded, all of them fully aware of the challenge ahead. But they knew Sarah was right. The aliens were powerful, but the humans were a different breed of warriors, one who didn't just fight with weapons, but with their minds. Sarah turned to her chief strategist. "What's the plan?" "We'll create a diversion," the strategist replied. "We'll make them think we're retreating, give them a false sense of victory. Then we'll hit them where it hurts the most, right in their command center. While they're focused on our retreat, we'll be waiting for them." Sarah smiled. It was a risky plan, but it was the only one that made sense. The humans had always relied on their ability to deceive, to confuse their enemies, and to strike at the heart of their enemies' weaknesses. Now was no different. As the battle approached, the alien forces mobilized. Zethar and his commanders were convinced that this time they would crush the human resistance. They had learned from their previous mistakes and were prepared to face the humans head-on. But what they didn't know was that the humans were already several steps ahead. The alien fleet approached Earth, their massive warships cutting through the void of space. As they neared the planet, their sensors picked up what they expected to be the human fleet: a few scattered ships, retreating and vulnerable. Zethar grinned, a sense of victory flooding his mind. "They're running. This is it. This is our chance to end it all." But then, just as the alien forces closed in, everything changed. The humans had intentionally led the aliens into the trap. Out of nowhere, a hidden fleet of human warships emerged from the shadows of Earth's moons. They weren't retreating. They had been waiting. The humans had used their apparent weakness as bait, leading the aliens into a position where they were surrounded on all sides. The human fleet struck with precision and speed, launching a barrage of missiles and energy blasts that took the aliens by surprise. Zethar's face twisted with disbelief. "What is this? How did they?" Garrus's voice crackled through the communication channels, his tone calm but with a sharp edge. "You should have listened, Zethar. The humans don't just fight. They think, and they plan. You've been too focused on strength to notice the truth." The alien warship commanders scrambled to respond, but it was too late. The humans had already gained the upper hand, and the battle was quickly tipping in their favor. The alien ships were forced to retreat once more, this time with heavy casualties. It wasn't just a loss of ships. It was a loss of pride. The humans had done what no one thought possible. They had outsmarted the most advanced military forces in the galaxy. As the alien fleet withdrew, Zethar stood motionless, his eyes fixed on the holographic map of the battlefield. His forces had been outplayed, and it was clear to him now that the humans were not just fighting to survive. They were fighting to win, and they would stop at nothing to do so. The battle of minds had been won, and the humans had proven that they were not only resilient, but also a force that could not be underestimated. The turning point. The retreat of the alien fleet left a profound silence in its wake, a silence that echoed across the galaxy. For the first time, the alien commanders were forced to question everything they thought they knew about warfare, about humanity, and about themselves. The humans, once thought to be an insignificant species, had shown an incredible depth of intelligence and resolve. They had outwitted the aliens again. And this time, the consequences were far more severe. On Earth, the mood was not one of celebration, but of grim determination. The victory was hard-won, but the war was far from over. Sarah and her team gathered around the strategic table, their faces tense but resolute. "We've done it," Sarah said, her voice steady. "We've shown the aliens that we can beat them. But this isn't the end. They'll come back. They'll adapt, and they'll try to finish what they started." The room fell quiet as everyone reflected on her words. The humans had proven that they could survive, and they could fight back. But the alien forces were vast, and the galaxy was a dangerous place. No matter how many victories the humans had won, the aliens would not give up. "We can't afford to rest," General Harris added, his eyes scanning the holographic map of the galaxy. "They'll regroup, and when they do, we'll need to be ready. We've got their attention, but we need to take it further. It's time to bring the fight to them." Sarah nodded. The humans had already proven they could defend themselves, but now, the goal was to take the war to the aliens, to hit them where it hurt most. At their very heart, the humans were going to push the boundaries of their strength and ingenuity, taking the fight directly to the alien empire. It wasn't enough to survive anymore. The humans had to win. At the same time, aboard the alien flagship, Zethar and his commanders were facing a crisis unlike anything they had encountered. The defeat was more than just a loss of ships. It was a loss of pride, a blow to the Empire's very foundation. The humans had shown an unexpected brilliance, a brilliance that no one had predicted, least of all the alien generals. "They've turned the tables on us," Zethar muttered, pacing in the war room. "We underestimated them at every turn, and now they're coming for us. How could we have missed this?" Garrus stood at the edge of the room, his face stern and unreadable. "You thought you were dealing with a primitive species," he said, his voice low but steady. "You thought they would crumble under your might. But the humans fight with something we can't comprehend, something deeper than weapons or strategy. They fight with a belief, with a purpose that makes them stronger than anything you've ever faced." Zethar shot him a sharp look. "And what would you have us do, Garrus? They're coming for us. They've already proven that they can outthink us, outmaneuver us. We can't just keep throwing ships at them. We need a new plan, and we need it now." Garrus paused for a moment, his mind racing. He had seen the humans' strength firsthand. He knew what they were capable of. But he also knew that the alien forces couldn't afford another misstep. The humans had been relentless, and they wouldn't stop until they had conquered every inch of space that belonged to them. "They won't stop," Garrus finally said, his eyes focused on Zethar. "But that's where you've been wrong. You've been trying to fight them with brute force, expecting them to break. But the humans don't break. They adapt. They learn from every fight, and they grow stronger. They're not like the other species we faced, and that's why they've been so difficult to defeat." Zethar's face darkened. "And what do you suggest we do?" "You have to think differently," Garrus replied, his voice cold and resolute. "You can't defeat them the way you've defeated every other enemy. You have to outsmart them, outthink them. That's the only way to stop them." As the alien commanders discussed their next move, the humans were already executing their own plan. Sarah and her team had made the decision to strike directly at the heart of the alien empire, targeting a key strategic point that would cripple the aliens' ability to continue their campaign. It was a dangerous mission, but it was one they had no choice but to take. The humans had prepared for months, gathering intelligence, developing new strategies, and working together to ensure their success. This was no longer a fight for survival. It was a fight to win. The mission was set in motion. A fleet of human ships, carefully disguised and equipped with advanced technology, slipped into alien space unnoticed. They knew that the aliens would expect a direct assault, so they planned to strike from an unexpected angle. They would take the aliens by surprise and force them into a position where they would have no choice but to surrender. As the human fleet approached the heart of the alien empire, Sarah stood on the command deck, her face set in grim determination. The stakes had never been higher. She knew that this would be their greatest challenge yet, but she also knew that the humans had something the aliens didn't: unwavering resolve. The final confrontation was looming. Both sides knew it was coming, and neither was willing to back down. It was the turning point in the war, the moment when the fate of the galaxy would be decided. And the humans, with all their strength, intelligence, and resolve, were ready for whatever the aliens would throw at them. The time for games was over. The final battle was about to begin. The regret. The final battle had arrived. It wasn't just the culmination of years of struggle between two species. It was the defining moment of an entire war. The stakes could not have been higher. For the aliens, it was a fight to preserve their empire and their pride. For the humans, it was a fight to ensure their survival, and to prove once and for all that they would not be conquered. On the command deck of the human fleet, Sarah stood with her arms folded, her eyes fixed on the holographic displays. The alien forces were ahead, their massive warships poised to strike. This was the final push, the one that would either break the human resistance or force the aliens to retreat once and for all. The plan was simple but daring. The humans had positioned themselves in the perfect spot to strike at the aliens' most vulnerable point. The heart of their empire was within reach, a target that could cripple their entire war effort. It was the kind of gamble that only the humans could make, the kind of risk they had been taking from the very beginning of the war. "We're in position," the chief strategist said, his voice tense. "If we strike now, we can take out their command center and cripple their fleet. But we have to act fast. The longer we wait, the more likely they'll bring in reinforcements." Sarah nodded, her face set in determination. "Do it. Now." With a series of commands, the human fleet moved swiftly into action. The alien ships, unaware of the human fleet's approach, continued to advance, preparing for what they thought would be their final victory. But the humans had outsmarted them once again. They had anticipated the aliens' every move. As the human ships launched their attack, the alien fleet found itself caught off guard. The humans' technology and tactics, which the aliens had underestimated for so long, now proved to be their greatest advantage. The alien warships, once formidable, were now vulnerable. The humans struck with precision, their missiles and energy blasts cutting through the alien defenses with shocking efficiency. Zethar, standing on the bridge of his flagship, watched in horror as his fleet began to crumble. "No, this can't be happening," he whispered, disbelief etched across his face. "We were so close." The alien commanders scrambled to respond, but their efforts were futile. The humans had already outmaneuvered them, and the alien ships were being torn apart by a relentless barrage. The heart of their empire, their last hope for victory, was slipping away. "We underestimated them," Garrus's voice echoed through the communications channels. "I told you this would happen." Zethar turned to him, his eyes filled with a mixture of anger and regret. "You warned us, Garrus. You were right all along. But it's too late. We've lost." Garrus' expression remained impassive. "It's not too late for you to stop fighting. You can surrender before it's too late." The alien fleet continued to disintegrate before their very eyes. The humans were not just fighting for victory. They were fighting to end the war once and for all. The tide had turned, and there was no way to stop it. Back on Earth, Sarah and her team watched the results of their attack. The alien command center was falling, their fleet scattered and defeated. The humans had won, not just the battle, but the war. The aliens, for all their power and arrogance, had been outsmarted, outblasted, and outclassed by a species they had once deemed insignificant. "This is it," Sarah said softly, her voice filled with a quiet sense of triumph. "We've done it. We've won." The communication channels opened, and Zethar's voice came through, defeated and broken. "We surrender. The war is over. You have defeated us." For a brief moment, the humans stood in silence. It was over. The aliens had realized their mistake too late. They had underestimated the humans, thinking they could crush them with sheer force. But the humans had shown them something the aliens could never have predicted: resilience, intelligence, and a will to fight that could not be broken. Garrus, standing on the alien flagship, looked out at the wreckage of his empire. The humans had proven themselves in ways he could never have imagined. The regret he felt was deep, an understanding that if they had only listened to him sooner, they might not have lost everything. "You were right, Garrus," Zethar said quietly, his voice filled with resignation. "I should have listened." Garrus's eyes remained fixed on the stars, a sense of quiet satisfaction settling over him. "It's not about being right," he said. "It's about understanding that some things can't be conquered by force. The humans were never the enemy. We were." As the alien fleet withdrew, defeated, and the humans celebrated their hard-won victory, One thing was clear: the galaxy would never be the same again. The humans had shown the universe what they were capable of, and no one would ever forget it. The war was over. The humans had won. And the aliens, for all their strength and technology, would never again underestimate the power of human resolve.